You won't believe what happened when my son finally moved into our family's lake cabin. What started as a peaceful weekend getaway quickly turned into a full-blown neighborhood drama, all because of one neighbor. The notorious HOA Karen. The kind of person who seems to have nothing better to do than watch everyone's every move and call the cops at the slightest thing. And this time, she decided to target us. The moment she saw my son moving in, she didn't hesitate to pick up the phone and report something she claimed was suspicious. But what she didn't expect was how the whole situation would flip. When my wife showed her military ID, it was a moment that froze her in place. Like she realized she'd crossed a line she couldn't come back from. You see, my wife's service means a lot to us, and it's part of why this cabin holds so much meaning. It's not just a weekend spot. It's a place where we find peace after everything life throws at us. Yet here we were, being treated like troublemakers just for living there in this story. You'll meet all the players from the overly strict HOA. Karen, who seems to think she's the sheriff of our quiet neighborhood. To my son, who just wanted a fresh start, and my wife, whose military background adds a surprising twist to this whole situation. What really happened that day? Why did the HOA Karen's attitude change so suddenly? And what did showing the military ID really do to the whole case? Stick around, because in the next part, I'll share all the tense moments, the unexpected conversations, and what it all meant for our family's peace of mind. Trust me, you don't want to miss how this one ends. Before all this chaos started, the lake cabin was our little escape from the busy world. We've owned it for years, a quiet place where the family could gather, relax, and make memories. My son, who recently decided to move in full-time, was excited to start fresh. It wasn't just about the scenery. It was about building a new chapter away from the city noise. But we didn't expect the neighborhood to react like this. The HOA, known for strict rules and a few too many opinions, has always kept a watchful eye on everything around the lake. We tried to follow all the guidelines, keeping the property neat, respecting quiet hours, and being friendly with neighbors. Yet, it seemed like the moment my son started moving in, things changed. That's when HOA Karen came into the picture. She's the type who watches from her porch with binoculars and jumps at any chance to enforce the rules. Sometimes a little too aggressively. When she saw the moving trucks, she called the cops, claiming there was suspicious activity. It was frustrating because we hadn't done anything wrong, just moving in and trying to settle down. The police arrived, and that's when my wife stepped forward. Showing her military ID, I could see the change in Karen's expression immediately. Her confident attitude faltered for a moment, like she wasn't expecting to be challenged. My wife's military service isn't just a title. It's a big part of who she is. The discipline, the respect she earned. It all showed that we weren't the troublemakers Karen wanted to paint us as. But even after that, things didn't smooth over. The tension grew, and the neighborhood started talking. Questions about why my son was moving in so suddenly, what kind of people we really were, all swirled around. There's more to this story than just a call to the cops. It's about how a community reacts when something or someone expected shows up, and how one woman's assumptions nearly tore apart a family's peace. What happened next? That's where the real surprises begin. Continue from the previous section and right leading up to the climax of the story. This part should build maximum suspense and tension, with the audience anticipating how the conflicts will resolve. Don't reveal the resolution yet. Instead, build up to the most intense moments. Keep the story engaging and maintain the use of keywords. Also, do not make any headings. Only write story in paragraphs. Also, keep the wording simple and natural tone. Also, make the script human-centric and don't give feel of AI-generated. Also, don't create violated content, which can affect YouTube policy. The tension around the cabin kept growing. Like a storm ready to break. Every day felt heavier. HOA Karen's visits became more frequent. her eyes sharp and unyielding. She seemed convinced that if she pressed hard enough, she could force us out, or at least make us regret moving in. The neighborhood, once quiet and friendly, had shifted into something unfamiliar. Whispers behind doors, cautious glances, and an unspoken divide between us and the rest. One evening, my son was fixing a loose board on the porch when Karen appeared suddenly, accusing him of violating a rule about property modifications. Her tone was sharp, almost triumphant, like she was waiting for him to slip up. But my son stood his ground, calm but firm, reminding her that nothing was done without approval. The argument drew a small crowd of neighbors who watched silently, sensing the tension but unsure which side to support. At that moment, my wife stepped outside with her military ID in hand, a symbol not just of her service, but of the respect she deserved. Karen's face went pale again, the same freeze I had seen before. For a brief second, the air shifted. But instead of stepping back, Karen's eyes narrowed, and she muttered something under her breath before storming off. That night, you could feel the weight of everything pressing down. The cabin that was meant to be a refuge now felt like a battleground. The HOA board was set to meet soon, and rumors spread that Karen planned to push for fines and restrictions that could cripple us financially. Our friends warned us to prepare for a fight, but no one knew how far Karen would go. Just when it seemed like things couldn't get worse, a surprise visitor arrived at the cabin late at night. Someone connected to Karen in a way we never expected. What they said next changed everything, pushing us toward a showdown none of us were ready for. The question now wasn't just about rules or property. It was about standing up for our family, our rights, and the peace we deserved. What happened after that visit? The story's about to take a turn you won't see coming. Just when we thought the tension had reached its peak, the late-night visitor brought news that shifted everything in a way we never saw coming. It wasn't just some random neighbor stopping by. This person was someone with deep ties to HOA Karen, someone whose influence could change the whole neighborhood dynamic. As they spoke quietly in the living room, it became clear they were there to warn Asab more than just the HOA's usual complaints. Turns out, HOA Karen had been quietly pushing for a major change in the community's rules that would make it nearly impossible for families like ours to keep the cabins they loved. The visitor hinted at a secret agenda, a plan to force out residents who didn't fit the image Karen wanted for the neighborhood. Suddenly, this wasn't just about a few petty arguments or a suspicious call to the cops. It was about a calculated effort to control who belonged here. We were stunned. The peaceful lake cabin, the place where we had hoped to find quiet and healing, to become a battleground for something much bigger. My wife's military background, my son's fresh start, and our family's dream were all caught in the middle of a fight we hadn't expected. As the days passed, the pressure only increased. Meetings grew tense, with Karen rallying support for her changes. Other neighbors, who once kept their distance, now began to choose sides. Some sympathized with us, understanding that the community was more than just rules and appearances. Others seemed to be swept up in Karen's vision, ready to push us out. Every phone call, every knock on the door felt heavier. We knew this was more than just a dispute, was a test of how far we were willing to go to protect our family and our home. The showdown was coming, and no one could predict how it would end. What would happen when we finally faced HOA Karen? And the board? How far would she go to get her way? The next part will reveal the moments that pushed us to the edge. Stay tuned, because the story is far from over. The day of the HOA meeting felt like walking into a storm. The community center was packed, neighbors on every side, some with skeptical looks, others clearly supporting Karen's plan. My family and I sat together, the weight of everything pressing down, knowing this moment could change everything about our future at the lake cabin. When Karen stood to speak, Her voice was firm, laying out the new rules and restrictions she wanted to enforce. She painted a picture of order and protecting property values, but beneath it all was a clear message: people like us weren't welcome. It was painful to hear, but my wife stepped forward, calm and steady, sharing her story, her military service, our family's commitment to the community, and what this cabin truly meant to us. Then I spoke up, reminding everyone that this place wasn't just about rules or appearances, it was about neighbors, respect, and understanding. I pointed out how the real strength of any community is found in support, not exclusion. Some faces softened, the tension easing just a bit. But just as it seemed like reason might win the day, Karen made a surprising move she accused us of: violating several HOA guidelines, threatening fines, and even legal action. The room held its breath. That's when my son pulled out a folder filled with official documents, permissions we'd obtained. Clear evidence that everything was above board. The proof was undeniable. Even some of Karen's closest supporters looked away, caught off guard. The board had no choice but to reject Karen's proposal and dismiss the accusations against us. It was a victory that felt like a weight lifting from our shoulders. But just when relief began to settle in, Karen stood up again, her expression unreadable, and quietly announced she was stepping down from the HOA board. No one expected that. It was the end of her reign, but it also left a question hanging: what had really pushed her to act this way, and what would come next for the neighborhood? Our fight wasn't just about rules or a cabin anymore. It was about community, respect, and the unexpected ways people reveal themselves when challenged. And while this chapter closed, the story of that lake cabin and its people was far from over. After Karen's surprising resignation, the neighborhood slowly began to breathe easier. Without her constant scrutiny, the atmosphere around the lake cabin shifted back toward the peaceful, welcoming community we had hoped for when we first bought the place. Neighbors who had been hesitant before started coming around, offering smiles and even invitations to weekend barbecues. It was like the tension that had weighed so heavily on all of us was finally lifting. My wife and I often talked about what we had learned through this experience. It wasn't just about standing up to a difficult neighbor or proving we belonged. It was about the importance of respect and communication. How quickly assumptions and judgments can turn a community upside down. Our family's military background reminded us every day of discipline and honor, but it also reminded us to stay patient and compassionate. Even when things got tough, my son settled into life at the cabin with a new sense of belonging, and we made sure to involve ourselves more in the community, showing that we weren't just outsiders, but neighbors who cared. The HOA board also changed, bringing in new voices that focused on cooperation rather than control. It felt like the lake cabin was truly ours, again, not just a property, but a home. Looking back, the whole ordeal showed us how fragile peace can be when people aren't willing to listen. But it also showed the power of standing firm, knowing your rights, and standing up for what matters. If you ever find yourself in a situation like this, remember that patience, clear communication, and respect can make all the difference. Thanks for watching this story about our fight with HOA Karen after my son moved into our lake cabin. If you've ever dealt with tough neighbors or HOA drama, share your experiences below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more real-life stories. There's always more beneath the surface, and I can't wait to share the next one with you.